On the morning of August the 4th, 1577, a monstrous thunderstorm rolled in over the county of Suffolk in the east of England. The sky went black, the rain came sideways, and in the town of Bungay, the congregation of St. Mary's Church did what frightened people did in 1577. They crowded inside, knelt, and prayed for it to pass. It did not pass. According to the account written down that very year, as the storm reached its screaming peak, the doors of the church burst open and something came through them. A huge black dog, bigger than any dog should be, black as the storm itself, with eyes that burned like hot coals. It tore down the length of the aisle, straight through the packed and praying congregation, and as it passed two people kneeling at their prayers, it killed them where they knelt, their necks broken, their bodies falling, and left a third man badly burned, shriveled, as the writer put it, like a piece of leather scorched in hot fire. Then it was gone, back into the storm. And a few miles away, at another church, the same beast, or one exactly like it, burst in, killed again, and left something behind on the north door. Deep, dark, burned-in scratch marks. Those marks are still on that door today. You can go and put your hand on them. Welcome back to the campfire. Pull up a chair. The fire's warm. The night is long. And there's more to this story than you've been told. Let's start with the creature itself, because the beast that supposedly came through those doors already had a name, and it was older than the church. They call him Black Shuck. Black Shuck is the phantom dog of East Anglia, the marshy, lonely eastern corner of England, and for centuries, the people of Norfolk, Suffolk, and Essex have known exactly what he looks like. He's enormous, the size of a calf or a small horse. He's shaggy and black as coal, and it's his eyes that people never forget. Sometimes they're described as two great blazing eyes, red or green, as big as saucers, and sometimes, more chilling still, he's said to have just one enormous eye burning in the center of his head. Even his name carries the dread, Shuck. Most likely comes from an Old English word, shucka, meaning a demon or the devil. And here's the part that made him truly feared. Black Shuck was an omen. To meet him on a dark road, to feel him padding silently at your heel, to see those saucer eyes in the hedgerow, it meant death, yours or someone in your family, often within the year. He didn't always attack. Sometimes he simply appeared, walked with you a while, and vanished. And then you went home and waited to find out who was going to die. For hundreds of years, people crossing the lonely marsh roads and coastal lanes of East Anglia after dark walked in genuine fear of him. He was woven into the landscape. There are lanes still called Shuck's Lane to this day. So that's the legend. An ancient, coal-black death hound, older than anyone could remember. But of all the sightings across all those centuries, one stands far above the rest, because someone wrote it down at the time. And that brings us back to the storm of 1577. The account we have comes from a man named Abraham Fleming, who published a pamphlet in the same year with a ghostly blunt title, A Strange and Terrible Wonder Wrought Very Late in the Parish Church of Bungay. And Fleming did not undersell it. He describes the storm as one of the worst anyone can remember. Darkness, thunder that shook the ground, lightning splitting the sky. He describes the black dog running through Bungay Church, the two parishioners killed at their prayers, the man scorched and shriveled but somehow left alive. He tells us that the church clock was damaged and the tower was struck. And then he describes the beast striking again down the road at the church in Blythburgh, killing more and leaving the congregation certain that the devil himself had walked among them. At Blythburgh, the church steeple collapsed that same day, and on the north door, those black, burned scorch marks were found. The marks that, centuries later, would be pointed out to visitors as the very fingerprints of Black Shuck, seared into the wood as he fled. A demon dog in a church, killing worshippers in front of a whole town, written up and printed within the year. It's one of the most concrete monster stories in English history. So the obvious question, the one Abraham Fleming absolutely did not want you to ask, is, what actually came through the door of that church? Let's go through it honestly, because the answer has been standing in plain sight the whole time. It was in the very first line of the story, the storm. August 4th, 1577 saw a genuine, Catastrophic thunderstorm hit Suffolk. That part isn't legend, it's weather. And a stone church with a tall tower packed with people in the middle of a violent electrical storm is a lightning rod. We're told directly that Bungay's tower was struck and the Blytheburg steeple collapsed that day. That's not the work of a dog, that's the work of lightning. And a powerful lightning strike on a crowded church does something terrible and very specific. The current can leap through the building, through the stone, and hit damp air and the people. It can kill instantly, sometimes leaving victims looking strangely untouched, sometimes throwing them down as if struck by an invisible force. It can burn. It can scorch wood black. Some researchers point to ball lightning, a rare, poorly understood phenomenon where a glowing hovering sphere of light during storms drifts through a room and can burn or explode. Picture a burning ball of light rolling down the aisle of a dark church while thunder shakes the walls and 2 people drop dead. Now, imagine explaining that in 1577. You'd reach for the only language you had. A great dark shape, burning eyes, the devil, death! And then there's Abraham Fleming himself. Fleming wasn't a neutral reporter. He was a devout, moralizing writer, and his pamphlet really wasn't journalism. It was a sermon. His whole point was that God was sending a terrible warning to sinners, and a demon dog rampaging through a church is a far more effective warning than, there was a bad storm and lightning struck the building. The horror was, at least partly, the message. The black dog made the moral land. So the scorch marks on the Blytheburg door? Almost certainly lightning burns. The deaths? A lightning strike on a packed church? The demon dog? The most frightening story of a terrified congregation and a Puritan pamphleteer could tell about the day the sky tried to kill them. Case closed. Except it isn't. Not really, because here's the thing the lightning explains, and the thing it doesn't. It explains 1577. It does not explain why the people in that church already knew exactly what a giant black death dog was before he ever came through the door, because Black Shuck was old. Phantom black dogs haunt British folklore from one end of the island to the other under a dozen local names. The Barghest of Yorkshire, the Padfoot, the Gytrash, the Church Grim that was said to guard the graveyard, the idea of a huge, black, glowing-eyed hound that walks the lonely places and heralds death is far, far older than one stormy morning in Suffolk. Its roots run down into pre-Christian Britain, into the deep human fear of the dark, the wild, the wolf at the edge of the firelight, the need to give death a shape you could see coming. The lightning gave the legend its most famous day, but the legend gave the lightning its dog. The storm didn't create Black Shuck. Black Shuck was already waiting in the dark for a night terrible enough to be blamed on him. So here is the honest verdict. The Bungay and Blytheburg attack of 1577 was, almost certainly, a devastating lightning strike, possibly ball lightning, on 2 crowded churches during a real and violent storm, which killed and burned and terrified, and was then written up by a moralizing preacher into a tale of a demon dog and the wrath of God. The scorch marks are the fingerprints of lightning, not a hound. There is nothing supernatural we need to explain the deaths, but the creature that got the blame was already centuries old, and he did not die with the explanation. Long before 1577, and long after, people walked the marsh roads of East Anglia and swore that something huge and black and silent was walking beside them. In 2014, archaeologists digging at Leiston Abbey in Suffolk uncovered the skeleton of an enormous dog, and the whole country reached, half joking and half not, for the same 3 words. Was it Shuck? It almost certainly wasn't, but look how fast we all still reach for it. So here's my question for you. Was it lightning and a preacher with a point to make? Or is there something still out there on the dark Suffolk roads, padding along just behind you, that we've only ever managed to explain away? Tell me down in the comments whether you look back over your shoulder. And if this one kept you on the edge of the firelight, hit like and subscribe, because history is full of monsters that turned out to be the sky. And we are far from done staring into the dark, to be sure. Every legend starts at the fire. This one left its marks burned into a church door, and 400 years later, we still can't stop touching them.